Each week on Culinary Confidential, Christina Cates, a seasoned foodie who has worked at some of New York City's top restaurants, will share her passion for the culinary world. Whether you're a professional chef, a restaurant enthusiast, or a lover of good food, Christina dives into the heart of hospitality, exploring the trends, triumphs, and challenges facing the food service profession. And you won't want to miss her chats with some of the most interesting and influential industry voices. And now, please take your seat at the table as Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates starts now, exclusively on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates. This show is produced in association with my dear friend, Lucas A. Ferrara. Okay, next week is the one-year anniversary show of Culinary Confidential. And I cannot believe a whole year has gone by already. When the idea was presented to me to do the show, I wanted to say no because I was a little scared to do it, and public speaking just makes me cringe. But I knew I had to say yes because this was an amazing opportunity. But I am glad I did it and that I committed to it because, number one, I met the most incredible people in the industry. I love listening to stories of tenacity, tips for success, and how people made it. I'm genuinely inspired by the industry people that have sat in front of me in the studio. It's been really cool. And number two, personally, I learned just how much I'm capable of as a person. It's been refreshing to try and do something new out of my comfort zone. I work full time, I do the show, I'm a single mom to 2 small boys, and I'm on the board of a few foundations. Life keeps me really busy, and it feels good knowing that I'm trying to make the most out of it. But for tonight's show, I thought it would be good to do something around the hotel world again because we really haven't talked hotels much since I had the hotel executives Allison Reed and Chip Olson on the show back in October, and that was almost a year ago. So tonight I'm joined by husband and wife, Kevin and Janine Fenton, and the topic for tonight's show is the business of private dining in the hotel landscape and how it affects the overall success of the business. Currently, Kevin works as the general manager for a major branded hotel here in New York City, and Janine works as the director of sales and catering for another branded hotel. We're not going to say which hotels because you know how corporate offices can be, but just know that they're working for hotel groups that you've very likely stayed at before. But back to them, they're a hospitality couple, and I love that. I love hospitality couples specifically because they're just easygoing, easy to get along with. They've seen it all. But these two are personal friends of mine, and our children are friends. So we're going to have a great show tonight. But some professional background on Janine Fenton. She has so much experience, even more than I was aware of before tonight's show. She worked as the chief concierge at the Gansevoort Hotel Meatpacking, which, let me tell you, the Gansevoort Hotel Meatpacking today isn't what it was, say, 20 years ago when she worked there. When she worked there, it was literally the epicenter of everything cool in New York. It was the place to see and be seen, and everything buzzy happened around Gansevoort Hotel and Meatpacking District. So I know she's going to have so many cool stories to share. She's squirming. You getting excited, Janine? Get them ready. Okay. She also worked at the Loews Regency Hotel as a director of catering. She worked for Loews Hotels Corporate as their events manager and in their sales organization. She worked at the W Hotel Lexington when they did the changeover to Marriott's Maxwell Hotel. She was the director of catering there, director of catering at Hilton Hotels. So more than qualified, I think, to be our guest tonight. Now, on to Kevin Fenton, her husband. Guess what? He's also not short on experience in the industry. He's been in the business for about 20 years, and around 15 of them have been in roles as either a managing director or general manager capacity. He's opened major branded hotels, transitioned branded hotels into boutique non-branded properties, and even transitioned a Times Square hotel into a Playboy branded hotel and nightclub. That's pretty cool. Now, private dining has become a powerful driver of both revenue and brand positioning within hotels. The most successful hotel groups treat private dining not as an add-on, but as a strategic pillar of their F&B program. Private dining in hotels matters because they bring high-margin revenue. Events are typically prepaid and require less staffing than a la carte operations. And guess what? There's a year-round demand for them. Think along the lines of corporate meetings, brand launches, birthdays, other social functions, weddings, the list goes on. And there can also be a customer loyalty loop where guests who celebrate a milestone in the hotel are more likely to return for a future stay or refer others. Now, the key ingredients for a successful hotel private dining program are you need flexible, purpose-built spaces. You want divisible rooms that quickly transform, say, 8-person dinners into 80-person cocktail soirees. You also need an elevated culinary identity. You want menus created by the hotel's head chef, not just generic banquet-style menus. You need a dedicated private dining team, hybrid sales, concierge roles who respond fast because most leads book with the first hotel that calls them back. They also have clear SOPs for proposals, site visits, tastings, and event execution. And don't forget, you always need dynamic packaging and pricing. You know, like tiered packages starting with something basic that go up with luxury upgrades. So you can have wine pairing, florals, entertainment, even some late night bite options. The minimum spend model, instead of a fixed room fee, increases F&B revenue. And there are some emerging trends, which I'm sure we'll get more into when the guests get on. But micro weddings and milestone dinners, those 15 to 40, 50 people dinners, they're overtaking large ballroom weddings. And hybrid corporate events, right? I mean, AV-ready rooms for meetings that transition into lunch or dinner. But let's get the experts on and get the show started here. Janine and Kevin, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're in studio with me tonight. I think it creates a better show when I have guests in front of me and we can lock eyes. I'm going to pump your brains with all the private dining hotel information you have because you guys are the experts. But before we get started, I don't think I ever asked you guys, how did you meet? Did you meet working in hotels?
Yes. Yes, we did. Yeah, we both worked for the same management company. And I worked in the corporate office, and Kevin was a GM at one of the hotels. And yeah, so that's how we met.
The rest is history.
The rest is history, friendship, and here we are. How many years later? 14.
Wow,
many years, Christina.
But you don't work together anymore, and that's the most important part.
We do not.
That's the key to success.
We do not work together anymore. No, that's it. It's a cool thing to be able to work with somebody that you love. It is cool that we work in the same industry, though,
yes.
So we can bounce ideas off of each other. But no,
and there's just an understanding between the two of you. Like
yes.
If you have to go into work on the weekends or work late,
sure, it
takes that other partner to really understand what you're going through. Because I always say there's nothing that compares to the hospitality industry.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. Being in that forum where people are, in a situation where they don't understand is super, super tough for interpersonal relationships. So, yes, it is great to have that understanding.
Amazing. And I'm sure you've seen by the promo this week, they are one of the most aesthetically pleasing couples there is.
Or at least we used to be 15 years ago, Christina.
Same. Okay, so let's move into segment 1 of the show. We're going to talk about the strategic value of private dining to a hotel's bottom line and just some overall operational excellence. How much of your F&B revenue is generated by private dining and small events today? And where do you want it to be margin-wise?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, in a full-service hotel, depending upon the idea of what they're trying to convey. So if they're a branded hotel, it's probably a little bit less, right, because it's more of an amenity for the guests. Mm-hmm. But if you're in a boutique hotel in New York City, most of those hotels are centered around the F&B experience. So,
right.
Just from the perspective of somebody who's run one of those before, I had a box in Hudson Yards years ago, 7-8 years ago at this point, that did $5.5-6 million in rooms, and we did almost $11.5 million in F&B.
Wow.
So I give you some perspective. And that's, of course, encompassing events and other things.
Yeah.
But the private dining experience was a huge part of it because, there's a little bit more of a one-to-one interaction, and you can upsell a lot better in a PDR environment than maybe in a group setting or when you're just bringing out, plates and things. So.
Just to give people background, because we use a lot of lingo on the show, PDR.
Yeah,
There's a lot of industry people that listen, private dining room for, maybe my mom and dad that are listening.
Shout out to your mom and dad who are awesome too, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. It's good that you checked me on that because I'm used to talking to my wife. We're in the business, so we speak that lingo just subconsciously, right?
No, but you know what? I just hosted a 40th birthday party a couple weeks ago, and, they don't know when I'm, like, doing these things that I'm in the industry, and they're using lingo like the BEO, like when they're speaking to me, banquet event owner, and I'm like, yeah, I know what that means.
Yeah.
But, like, if I was like Joe Schmo on the street, you should... be a little more specific about that.
For sure.
And if you're running a great event, the client should never know those terms to begin with, right?
They weren't running a great event. That's a whole other story.
That's another segment, Christina.
All right. What types of private events are currently driving the most profitability? Do we think they're more corporate or social events? Janine, your boots on the ground. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And where I'm currently at, I would say on the social side of things, that's really my bread and butter. I've definitely, there was a downtick in corporate events, of course, like post-COVID. We're starting to see a little bit of a turnaround for sure. Where you're having like town hall meetings, where you're talking, 100, 200 people. But really a lot of corporate groups were trying to do that in-house to save money. Yep. So I am seeing that come back. But of course, the social, you're always going to have weddings.
Right.
Corporate can cut back a little bit, but the social aspect, the weddings, the mitzvahs, that right now is my real bread and butter for sure. Like you talked about the micro weddings, we do see some of that, but just currently in my wheelhouse right now, I'm dealing with like larger style weddings, and still kind of catching up from COVID, believe it or not,
so
there's still a lot of post-COVID weddings that are still happening and kind of just catching up from that.
You know what it is? Like, in that post-COVID world, there was the thing, revenge travel,
yes.
right? Where people were just, like, traveling like
Very
crazy.
Big term, yes.
I think that is also with social functions and events. People celebrate more now. They make an effort to do these kinds of milestone events because they couldn't do it for so long. Correct. And they do appreciate life a little more. So, like, I know for me now, I'm like, yeah, let's go out. Let's go out. Like, I want to be out all the time now because we weren't for a little bit. Yeah. And that was hard.
And people are doubling back, too. So, like, if you got married into 2021, right, if you're coming into that 5-year, right, you're saying, hey, you know what? We really didn't get to celebrate the way we wanted to during COVID.
That's a great point,
Let's attack it at this point right now, right? And that's why socials are continuing to grow. And like Janine said, the corporate side is, fingers crossed, it's coming back into the focus, especially in the New York, New Jersey area at this point.
I guess it's also hard, too, for corporate because a lot of people are still working from home. And they've incorporated that into their professional lifestyle. So it's like, if I'm working from home, am I going to go into the office to go to a corporate event type thing? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Yeah. And what we're seeing from a lot of companies right now is there's a big effort to get back into the office. Because what's challenging right now is our demographic, right? I won't tell on our ages, but our demographic knows how to manage people. But if you came out, if you graduated from college, or if you were 2 or 3 years into your career, conceivably you should be moving into mid-level management at this point right now. And if you don't know how to boots on ground manage people at this point, you're going to struggle. So I think that's why the corporate events are coming more into play, because they want people, even if they're working from home, to have that face-to-face interaction. So it's that way they can, it's huge, a huge part of the whole corporate ecosystem.
I mean, there's some people... And I get the benefit of working from home. I do. But I'm not a work from home person. I don't want to ever work from home.
I want to hug you. I love this.
I want to get dressed, start my day, go into an office and feel productive. But people swear by it. And I'm like, I know, because I had to do it a couple times during COVID. You're just more relaxed. You're going to throw the laundry in the wash when you should be focused on something. And there's like mental health benefits and all that. But whatever. Like, I'm an old school, come to work and do the job. Yeah. Home is home and work is work.
Yeah. You're separating church and state.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's, I remember when my wife came out of the city. She worked in the city for so many years. And I remember when she moved out into Jersey, she loved the idea of working in the city and living in Jersey because she wanted to separate those two environments. It's the same thing with work from home, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a fairly disciplined person, and I just don't know that you get the same interactions with people. Yeah. And I think that's why corporate events, I mean, we're budgeting a ridiculous amount of corporate events in our industry coming into 26 because we need that. We
Yes,
think corporations
great.
need it. Yeah.
You know, I think we have to have you back on the show for another episode about the workforce. Because
you got to give me 2 hours on
I
that. That's right. If we can have 2 hours for that one, because it's a whole
we'll have to
different
do like a whole month series.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It scares
It is
very scary.
crap out
Very
of me.
scary.
For our kids as well. I mean, obviously, we know your children and you know our children, and it's very scary for our kids right now.
I know. That's why we got to start them young, working
Agreed.
hard.
That's it.
Yeah,
Forget
exactly.
summer camp. You're getting a job.
Right? Is Kate's Electric hiring for my son or no?
Always. Hey, they say tradesmen are the new millionaires. So
I say to my kids
Yep.
all the time,
Always
Christina, I don't
say
want to
that.
go off on a tangent with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, college is important. We did it, everything like that. But if my kid decided they wanted to be an electrician, there's electricians in the city right now making $300,000-$400,000.
oh yeah, the union.
Easy.
Oh my god, I know.
Easy.
I know.
If I could go back with the Fountain of Youth, right? Now, I can't even fix a light bulb. She'll tell you she does everything. But I would go back and get a trade. It's unbelievable
Yeah.
right now.
It's a dying skill.
Yeah.
Dying, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, you guys are coming back. We have so much to discuss.
Yeah.
All right, but back to the private dining. Do you see private dining customers converting into repeat hotel guests when you're in the bigger branded hotels, or becoming more brand ambassadors?
Yeah, I'm going to let Janine talk about this because I want her to talk about the power breakfast at Loews and how that evolved into other things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let her kind of talk
Okay,
about
Loews
this.
I'm
Hotel.
sure you're
Yeah.
familiar with that, right? Long-standing, big breakfast.
She's downplaying. It's the most important breakfast, or at least pre-COVID. It was the most important breakfast
Yes,
in New
I
York
can't
City.
speak to now, right?
Right.
Since I haven't been back to Lowe's since post-COVID. But yeah, I mean, anybody who was anybody in New York, whether you were government, major politicians, dignitaries, they were all there. So, yeah, I mean, that was definitely, something that it was huge. And we would see a ton of guests all the time where they had standing tables and, just day after day, like you needed a reservation. You could not just walk into this place. And yeah, absolutely. We did have a lot of, I did private events for vice presidents. For other...
Mike Pence was a staple in that hotel.
Yeah,
Literally
I
was
don't
there
know.
all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. Can I say that?
Oh, yeah,
Can
say
I
whatever you want.
like,
He's not the vice president
okay,
anymore, and my
so I
security
just don't
clearance is
know,
good. You can
right?
say
Like, what I can say, what I can't say. But yes, Mike Pence absolutely used to stay with us a lot. Also, like Israel during the United Nations General Assembly, that was really big. We did a lot of events.
Nightmare in the city.
Oh.
Yes, we did a lot of events, private events for them where, we had to have their security come into the kitchen and they're testing food and, the whole bit. So kind of just circling back, yes, absolutely. We had a ton of guests that came in for breakfast and then it would turn into, evening receptions
Great
and
point, yeah.
buyouts at the Regency Bar and Grill many times. That was just that place just pumped out a lot of those high profile, but not large, right? Because it's not a huge space. So
Yes,
it would be maybe
agreed.
100 people, 150. But again, it was like the top of the top that would be in there.
And then in
So-
Americano, we had the
Yep,
same
you
thing.
had that.
So we were right next to the Apple Studio, right? So it was nothing for Nicki Minaj or Tim McGraw or any of these people to walk in, right, and have breakfast, right?
Yeah,
The
everyone's
staff-
gotta eat.
Everybody's got to eat. That's right. The staff was on a first name basis with them, and they were treated obviously with the level of respect, the requisite level of respect. But they also had, their tables with their privacy, and that turned into PDR things for us too, because we had a fairly well-known chef who did amazing things for us.
Who was the chef there at that
It
time?
was Franklin Becker.
I think I worked with a guy that was at the Americano.
Yeah.
His name was Tony. I can't remember
He
his
may
last
have been before my time. Franklin was and I could say Franklin's name. He won't mind. I'm still very, very good friends with him. Franklin was an amazing chef for us who created unbelievable content. He did unbelievable things, and he was also very affable with the guests. Right? He was actually a singer too. Right? Do you remember Franklin singing?
I
Yeah,
don't.
he's a very interesting guy, singer
I didn't
and
know
everything like that. I'm giving him too much credit though right now. Yeah, But yeah, he pumped out a lot of things, and it turned into a lot of private dining events for us. It was unbelievable. I mean, and those things, before you know it, you got a table of 7, 8 people. You get the right crowd in there. That's $5,000, $7,000, $8,000.
That's right. I mean, I never worked in hotels, which I kind of regret because I feel like that would have been fun. My 2 regrets: not working in hotels and not working on yachts, like in below deck.
Below deck,
I think that would have been great.
Spend 6 months in a hotel, and you'll have a regret that you did work in a hotel. But go ahead, keep going.
In restaurants, we would always tell everyone the lifeline of the restaurant is private dining.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important.
Definitely.
You have a captive audience of 50 to 500 people that, word of mouth, if they have a great experience, will tell everyone. So private dining is so important.
Couldn't agree with you more. Right?
But let's go to our first commercial break. This was great, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined again tonight by Kevin and Janine Fenton, a husband and wife duo who have made their whole professional careers operating high-end hotels. Tonight, we've been discussing private dining in the hotel world and why it's so crucial for the overall success of the hotel. Kevin and Janine, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about designing private dining experiences that sell themselves. This is going to be all Miss Janine, the queen of private dining. How is the hospitality approach in the private dining different from service in maybe the main restaurant or bar in a hotel?
Yeah, so I mean, people are definitely looking for tailored, experiential dining. It's, people love when our executive chef is very involved, coming in, talking about, where local products are coming from, working with, local breweries or wines or, anything that can kind of just take a regular dining experience to the next level. And for sure, like going back to my Loews Regency days and even at the Gansfort Hotel, I think people just expect a little more, right, when it's a name. And definitely like working, I would lean a lot on our executive chefs to really collaborate together. Yeah. Like, luckily, I worked with some pretty amazing chefs that were open to that because, as you know, sometimes you work with some that aren't.
Chefs are fickle creatures.
Absolutely.
Fickle is a good word, and it's very kind.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, too, because the more creative the person is who's designing and the executive chef, the more on my side, because I'm a money guy at the end of the day, both personally and professionally. She's the creative in our house, right? And then I have to reel in the money, right?
That's true.
But the great part about it is the more we can charge.
Yeah.
Right? So so I always tell people, right, and this is kind of one of those things that you'll have to give your audience a little bit of context about, but food costs and beverage costs, hugely important at the end of the day.
Talk about
it.
Right?
You're looking at an industry where 90% of the new restaurants fail. That's the long and the short of it, right? And, a great margin in a restaurant, if you're doing 20% in a restaurant, and you know this better than anybody, you've been at some of the biggest. If you're doing 20% at a restaurant, you're doing something unbelievable. Now let's think about that contextually. 20 cents on every dollar goes towards net income at that point, right? You better be pretty creative or have creative people around you to design something where people say, this is so cool that I don't care what it costs. She's designed things that I've said, this is so cool, I don't care what it costs. And that's not something that ever comes out of my mouth. Pretty hard, I'll tell you right now.
You
right?
really do. You have to think outside of the box because also, too, you're in Manhattan, right? So the bar is already set high where you could turn out, walk out the hotel and there's a million other places that someone can go to, right? So it's definitely like in hotels, in hospitality, we always want to make someone feel at home, right? Like we're welcoming them back. So already at that point, we're like, all right, this is, you need to really lean on something that's going to set the bar apart from your competitor.
That's right.
And also the other big thing that we see is just really leaning into that like organic, local, sustainable. Like everyone, that's
the
what
buzzword
they want.
Right
it is.
now,
It
right?
is the buzzword. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many different ways that you can go about that. And it's really sitting with the client to understand what their needs are and who is going to be attending these dinners.
Private dining has come so far. When you used to go book an event, it's like, okay, penne vodka, chicken franchise.
Right.
It was like the
chicken Milanese.
lineup.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People don't want to see.
As soon as I go to look at a place and they have those on the menu, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. This place ain't for us.
You know what's interesting too, Christine, is we have a term in the industry called the capture rate. It's very important to all hoteliers, right?
I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
Say it again.
Capture rate, like capture.
Yeah.
Right? Like I captured her, right? Right? So here's the interesting thing. The capture rate is how we keep, in a full service environment, how we keep guests from the hotel inside the building spending money.
Yeah, there you
go.
go.
So like a good capture rate is somewhere in the 20% range, right? If you don't have people doing these things, right, your capture rate is going to be lower, especially in Manhattan, like my wife said. People are going to walk out your doors and go find alternatives, right? So in order to keep your capture rate high as a hotelier, you have to get more and more creative every single day.
That is very true. It's no longer just, checking into a hotel and, there's the hotel restaurant, right? That's typically it's an amenity because people have the opportunity when you're in a city to go wherever, right? There's a million different restaurants and things to choose from. So you have to get creative, not only with private dining, but just, offerings in the restaurant or maybe even in the lobby where you're setting up a champagne bar or, just different things to really kind of create a buzz. Exactly.
Because people like Christina, when she was a GM of a restaurant, were trying to steal our customers
That is
from
true.
the hotel.
Well, no, I'm not trying to steal them. I'm just trying to give them a little bit of dinner, and then they can go back to you for a
And then they
nightcap.
come back, right? You send them back
sharing.
to us, Christina. So you wanted to steal some of our market share and then send them back to us.
A little
That's
bit.
good.
But you know what? We actually had great relationships with concierges,
Mm-hmm.
especially in Tribeca when we were at the Palm, the Smith Hotel down there,
Yep.
the Marriott, even the Ritz-Carlton in Battery Park.
Yep.
So they would send us guests, and then in turn, I'd let the concierges come in with their friends and dine for free.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was
I'll
like
make a
give and
plug
take.
for you for people to come into this business. When I first met Janine, you're talking about 14 long years ago. Long, I'll tell you, right? She was the head concierge at the Gansevoort, right? And when we were in meatpacking, we could walk anywhere.
I believe that.
And walk
I
into any
believe it.
place for free because she sent
Yeah.
because right, if you have a guest that's staying 5 nights, right, you're not going to capture them all 5 nights.
No.
That's insanity.
You're
right?
lucky if you get them for one.
You're lucky
Yes.
if that's the 20%, right?
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah,
If you can
that's
get
it.
them for one, you're right
Yep.
there, right?
Yep.
But you're right. And smart restaurant people like you guys form those relationships with people, and that's how you were able to get that business, right?
Oh, we had to be. I mean, we were a full city block. And it's a huge restaurant.
Yep.
Our rent was close to $100,000 a month. We needed every seat full, every minute, every day.
Yes.
And it wasn't. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
$100,000 a month is just unbelievable.
a lot of steak
It's
to
a lot of
slice.
steak to sell. Yep.
gotta be
Yep.
creative.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you guys market private dining in hotels? I mean, I doubt you're just waiting for people to come to you.
Yeah, I mean, so from a creativity standpoint, my current hotel doesn't have it right now, but from a creativity standpoint, I've seen her come up with some of the most in-depth, ridiculous menus that are so over the top that a guest comes in and says, "Oh my God, how can I become a part of that?"
Wow.
Right, and that's incorporating the executive chef into things,
Yes,
right? Because it's
definitely.
huge. Your executive chef's going to look at you and say, "That's great, but from a food cost perspective, where are we at with this right now?" Right?
But you're not doing any like marketing per se. Like you're not advertising in a magazine.
Instagram.
No,
is the marketing.
Instagram.
Digital marketing.
It's all digital,
Yeah, it's all
really.
digital, yeah.
Yep. Instagram, and then we have like we use Cvent, and there's some platforms that we use where we're advertising per se on that, but really it's big with social media for sure.
And the marriage between, so we fill out RFPs, requests for proposal, and obviously I'm not saying that for your benefit, but for the audience's benefit. We fill them out on a yearly basis to get rooms into a hotel. And one of the big disclaimers is people want to know, are you sustainable? Are you local with your food?
Yeah.
There are major companies that I'm not at liberty to mention right now that will completely bar you from the RFP process if you don't answer yes to those things right now.
Wow.
Yes, that is
It's
true.
unbelievable right now.
I know. Well, companies like Cisco, right, that used to just you'd get all your stuff from Cisco,
Right.
whether
Yep.
it be
Yep.
packaged goods or food.
Yep.
It's like one-stop shopping. Those are becoming less desirable because people want Harry's tomatoes from the Hudson River Valley.
Yes,
Yes,
good point. And
that is
there's
true.
nothing better if you don't have an in-depth knowledge of food like I don't. Obviously, my wife is the creative. There's nothing better than walking. I remember going with Franklin to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, go with a chef. It is
I never
life-altering
have. I should.
to go with the chef, right? You could go with my wife. She's actually a chef. But I say this in all seriousness. She has an understanding of how to do it. Go to the market with the chef. It'll blow your mind, right? And consumers, right, when they see chefs in the market, it gets hit on Instagram, and they're like, "Oh my God!"
And then it goes viral.
Right, exactly.
And they say, "Where are you, the chef? Oh, you're down here touching the eggplant to make sure it's a good quality for the party." Yeah.
Remember when we went to Cut? We were at Cut the second day it opened at
Yep,
the Four
downtown,
Seasons downtown, right down here.
Yep.
I'll never forget Wolfgang walking around touching every table.
Yes,
And I remember walking, I was coming back from the bathroom, and I was like, "Oh boy, that's Wolfgang." right?
Isn't that cool?
Legendary,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
I had dinner at Latte Dior, Daniel Boulud's new
Daniel
steakhouse.
Boulud,
Yeah.
He was touching tables in the dining room back in December, and I was
Wow.
like, I've never seen him in person before. Like, that was
Right.
really cool for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll plug
Isn't
Franklin on that too. He used to touch tables all the time, which was amazing for us, right?
People want to see the chef. We're
Yes,
in a
they
very
do.
chef-driven hospitality world right now.
Totally.
Yep.
Totally. The chefs are the stars
That's
right
right.
now, right?
Yep.
It's unbelievable at this
Yeah.
point. And it's
Yeah.
good, and good for them because they've always been the people behind the scenes who have been, grinding away and creating these unbelievable things for us to
Now they're
eat,
getting the
right?
recognition,
They're getting
the
they
press
are.
they
Good point.
deserve.
Yep,
Absolutely.
Okay, Ryan's going to make us go to our last commercial break.
Okay.
All right, good deal. Yeah.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking private dining in the hotel landscape tonight with Kevin and Janine Fenton, personal friends of mine, but industry veterans. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
All right, so let's talk about training the staff.
Yeah.
Because that's so important
Yeah.
right, in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
How do you train private dining staff to deliver like an elevated, anticipatory service.
Great. I love that word.
Consistently.
Yes.
So it's such an interesting dynamic because training is like the Bible, right?
Yeah.
There was BC, before Christ, and then there was, after, right? Before COVID and after COVID.
Yes.
It's two totally different worlds, right?
This is going to go a good direction.
And I'm going to swing into something that'll be relevant to you. For our anniversary, we celebrated 9 years last week, and we went to a restaurant in town.
In
right?
Rutherford.
In Rutherford, where we live, where all of us live, right? 36 table touches in a course of an hour and 9 minutes.
It's like, leave me alone.
Yes.
You're touching me too hard.
Exactly.
Yes. And
Go ahead.
not only that, though, just a little bit to further that, right? So you're filling out, maybe they're on Open Table or Resi or whatnot, and they ask, are you celebrating anything? Sure. I'm like, okay, I'll put down anniversary.
Yeah.
Not one mention, right? It's very
like a wasted
interesting.
effort.
But when we were just in Italy, we were in Sicily and Taormina, and I filled out private lounge, and I filled out, we're celebrating his birthday. I forgot. Do you want to know that in this like gorgeous lounge, about 30 minutes into our experience, because that's what that was. It was truly amazing. They brought out a plate of like gorgeous, like a fruit display and with the candle, and I was like, at first I kind of like forgot.
You're like, what are they doing?
Because I'm like, what are they doing? So I'm like, did they? I don't remember. And sure enough, like, not that I'm expecting like a free dessert, but you're not even going to mention, is just like, why even bother asking?
But they came by your table 50 times.
A million times.
50, and it's
like
the training aspect always starts at the hiring aspect, right? You have to hire somebody who cares, right? And that
wants to be there.
Right. You can train anybody to do what we do. What we do is not super hard, right? But the hiring process is a huge part of it. And then I think the secondary part of it, from purely a training standpoint, is getting people to understand what an Epicurean, what an upscale experience looks like, right? I hate to say this, but a lot of times you may be putting somebody in a position and they've never been, or they've never had the experience that you're looking for them to deliver. When we were at Americano, the first thing we did, we made people eat in a restaurant.
Oh, I love that. It's like
we treated
not a
them
day
like
in the
royalty,
life. That's more
Christine.
work.
Yes,
like
I love that.
seeing the guest perspective.
Absolutely.
Totally. It's insane in the hotel world. When I first
Mm-hmm.
came in this business 18 years ago, every front-facing team member stayed in the hotel.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
You needed to know.
I might start applying for jobs at hotels. Just
exactly.
That was the old school hospitality way.
Right.
Truly.
It was, but now it's just turn and burn, right? And I know I'm using an industry term, right?
Yeah.
But we bring somebody in and it's a warm body, right? And it's just it's not fun. But I definitely think, having them have the experience is a big part of the training process. I definitely think bringing in industry veterans. I'll never forget Franklin brought in, and I'm giving him way too much airtime right now, but he brought in an Iberian ham carver for us that showed us how to actually carve this ham, right?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. And then, you know what's crazy about it, Christina? After we all learned, and I was sitting there like an idiot, right? Because I didn't know anything about this. You know how many more of those we sold because we knew what the heck we were doing at that point?
It's the same when like a wine rep comes in.
Yes.
Tastes you on a wine, and all of a sudden you sold a case of it that night.
Sure.
But if you didn't try it, you wouldn't have been able to talk about it, known the profile of it, where it came from, what it's going to pair with. It takes that 15 minutes with the wine rep in the pre-shift meeting, and all of a sudden you're blowing out bottles of that wine.
And I love that you mentioned the wine rep, because the important thing is, I think people are organically like children, right? I mean, I'll reference your kids, Topper and Kingston. They hate to hear it from you. They want to hear it from somebody else. If I say it to your kids, it carries more gravitas, right? Same thing if you say it to my kids. It's better to hear from an independent source who all they do is wine, or all they do is the jambone, or whatever it is, right? So that way you can actually, it'll stick to them at that point. So I think that's a huge part of training. And it stops people from being bored. It's not monotonous anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. 'Cause you have to kind of shake things up for people, especially working in restaurants and hotels. You're like, you get used to doing the same old thing.
Yes.
So, bringing in, like, we work with Brick City Brewery.
Love that.
Oh, in Nor. Is that Nor?
Yeah. And, he's awesome. Like, we'll come in all the time and do tastings for the team and the bartenders, and we'll run promos maybe during football season where he's coming in and handing out swag and just like talking, pairing right with our chef, like pairing menus with the beer. And people are really into craft beer right now, so it's always a big home run. And we do the same with whether it's tequila or whatever it is. Like, I'm a huge proponent of that as well, because I just think that, again, it's just the all-around experience, right, where you can talk to the product and be able to pair it with local items and just to get people excited about it. It's just something different.
We're talking about beer right now, but liquor sales as a whole is down now more than it's ever been. How is that affecting private dining?
Yeah,
Definitely. I mean, the mocktail craze is huge right now.
But are you seeing people want to incorporate that more into their menus?
Definitely. Absolutely. More and more, for sure, cocktail liquor sales are down, and
marijuana use is up.
If right.
We're just being,
the
if we're just being
THC
candid,
drink.
Right, but you can't incorporate that into your sales.
Yeah, not yet.
But how is that affecting your sales?
No, I know. No, you're right.
Like open bar packages. Are people utilizing them?
Not as much.
And that kills us from a profitability standpoint.
Right.
So perspective-wise, if you're running great food costs, and depending upon, obviously you were in a steakhouse, different, right? You're somewhere between 30 and 35%, meaning that 30 cents to 35 cents of every dollar is going towards costs, right? On the beverage side, if you're running a great bar, it's somewhere between 14 and 17%. So the idea that you could put 83 cents in your pocket on every bottle of 1942 that you sell, that's a pretty profitable venture, right? So to your point, with that down now, we're in a
cost of goods up.
Right.
I mean,
right. You got everything working against you. You got a supply chain break 5 years ago. You got wholesale prices up. You got a little bit of a tariff situation right now. There's a lot going on, and we really need those liquor sales to come back, unfortunately.
But it's that generation of people that don't want to work. They don't want to drink either.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Yeah. Well, the fact that they're not working means they don't have drinking money.
They don't have
Christina.
enough stress to make them
They
drink.
don't have enough stress, right?
Circle of
right,
life.
absolutely. Great point. Great
Oh my
point. Good
gosh.
ecosystem.
Not that we're promoting drinking,
No,
but I mean,
I don't drink at all myself.
That's right. Kevin does not drink at all.
But we were just in we put a new bar into our house, and we were just in a liquor store the other day, and Janine automatically I said, "Oh, let's put some beer in there for when people come by," and she recommended Brick City right away because obviously
you have a good relationship.
Yeah.
You know the product's
Absolutely.
good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Christina, did you guys do family meal when you were working?
Of course.
So now family meal is another huge term that I think people think, oh, it's just nourishing your team. It is, but it's a training aspect too, though.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that the best restaurants that do family meal are serving what they typically serve on the menu. If you're serving steak and all the rest of the trimmings, right, don't give us chicken tenders for the family meal.
Sometimes they're giving chicken.
Yeah.
There's a lot of arroz con pollo. Always, every day they would make that. And soup, they would make a lot of soup in the morning. It depended who was working, right? Like if you had a sous chef that put someone on the job that was really going to do something nice, then they would make a fruit platter, some eggs or things like that in the morning. But when I worked at the Pond, there was this one guy who hated doing family meal. He'd put chicken fingers and fries out at 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, you can't serve people this.
But that's that's the cool part about being a GM, like you are and like I am, right? I was gently persuasive that I wanted family meal to look like what they would be served sitting in the dining room.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of training. And I remember the chef came to me one day and said, hey, from a food cost perspective, and I said, nope, this goes into the training budget. And he goes, no. And I go, and after I explained it to him, he goes, yeah, I get you now. At this point,
I mean,
right?
you're not shaving black truffles on that pasta.
Not
unless she's around. If you've ever seen her around, she wants black truffle on the pasta.
I've never met a truffle I didn't like.
I had the truffleist on the show a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
He was so great. I got to bring him back for season 2. I love Jimmy Coons.
Amazing.
Shout out to Jimmy. He was so great. Okay, when we talk about the many different hotel brands that are out there, and we're not going to say which ones you work for, but just in general in life, which ones do you think are really knocking it out of the park private dining-wise?
I have to go back to Loews. So I'm going to shout out Mark Weiss. He's the SVP of food and beverage for Loews. He was with Ritz-Carlton prior. Yep. Mark Weiss is a F&B industry god. Like, seriously. Yep. Kevin has the pleasure of meeting him. He honestly was a mentor to me, and he is just at the top of the top and knows his stuff. And every Loews Hotels, while it's not a major, huge chain, right? I think maybe there's 30 hotels nationwide. It was so huge for him, and I worked right under him at the corporate office when I first started with Loews. So I got to really one-on-one with him. He just made sure that every hotel in whatever city was local experiences for whatever F&B venues were at that property. So, to me, Loews Hotels.
Yeah, Loews Hotels does a great job. I think most of the major brands are putting an emphasis on it right now. And they are hiring people who are not necessarily rooms people like me. Listen, I think I'm talented in a lot of ways. If you want somebody to design a menu, don't dial my number.
Yeah.
It's just not what I do, right? And I think that...
But what's good about you, though, Kevin, is you probably put people in place in the job that you know are good at that to balance you.
Richard Branson said...
I was just going to quote that.
Yeah, he said, hire smart people and get the hell out of their way, right? And that's what you do.
Did you read his book?
Yes, I did.
His book is fantastic.
Phenomenal book.
If I can get Richard Branson on this show...
Right.
Sir Richard Branson, we're calling out to you right now.
I will mic drop, never do another show.
Yeah, right,
really?
mic drop. But you know how... I mean, he says hire smart people and get out of their way. Yeah. That's what's actually...
Because he doesn't have an ego.
He doesn't have an ego. Absolutely. Right. I actually met him before once. Yeah, and he was amazing.
He's going to work at Virgin Hotels, guys. Come on.
Well, you never know.
That offer. Yeah, but you have to, we have to stop with the jack of all trades and master of none, right? And I think that's what the major brands have figured out. They're bringing in culinary people, right? Like they're going after people like you to consult on things and saying, hey, by the way, come in here and design a program for us. It's wonderful now. Yeah, so I think most of the major brands, and the independents are just knocking it out of the park. Let's be clear, the independents are still running the food and beverage scene.
Yeah.
And as it should be. I think Mark Weiss has a great thing he's got going on over there, but I think also him scaling it, it's 30 hotels, makes it a lot more palatable for him to keep his arms around it at that point right there.
Yeah,
right?
Stay involved.
Yes.
All right, so every industry has its season, right? Like the restaurant industry has its season where like January, depending on where you're located, like especially in New York, there's a lull.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you keep the private dining robust and full in your off season of sorts?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's challenging, but that's when I like to encompass these local, whether it's like Bricks or, some of the liquor reps that we work with where they'll come in and we're going to do, hey, it's going to be this pairing and, run kind of like specials and then also, too, if I'm trying to get certain clientele or corporate business to come in, I might kind of push them. If they're in the wheelhouse, I'll say, hey, I can, maybe I can waive the room rental, right?
There's flexibility.
Maybe I can, definitely.
Flexibility is huge.
Yes. So I know pretty immediate if someone is, looking to save a few bucks where I'll push them, hey, why don't you come back in February or whatever and I can give you a great deal.
Flexibility is the foundation of what the hospitality industry is built on, and it doesn't exist a whole lot anymore. That birthday party I just told you about that I hosted a few weeks ago, I wanted to say their name so bad on the air, but I don't want to do that. But it was so incredibly unflexible.
Yep.
And when I went into that restaurant that night on a Saturday night in August, when everyone knows New York is dead and you can get any reservation you want during that month, and I saw that I was the only private event and the dining room was half empty, I was like, I hated them even more.
Of course.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I was irate. Like, I was fuming inside. I was like, I want to speak to someone. I didn't. But I was like, I need to tell them how awful they're doing at this job because I would have spent so much more money ahead of time if they were just flexible. But I just got tired of hearing, no, that's not good for our team. That's not good for the kitchen. The kitchen. Who's working? Right. There's no one in the restaurant.
Right. So one of the cool things that I love that you mentioned because you're an industry vet and you know about the lulls. There's a reason why in New York City we do restaurant week in first quarter and in third quarter, right? And I always say this to people. If you have a wonderful idea, right, especially in Manhattan, don't do it in September or October. And I know this sounds bad for me to say this, but the business is going to come anyway in September and October, right? Wait, right? And then fire that cannon in January or February, right? When everybody's sitting at home. You got to fill those holes, and you got to entice people to say, hey, I know it's 22 degrees outside, but let me get my tail up and get to this restaurant because they're doing something that I haven't seen before at that time, right? So
those are good tips.
Yeah, your creatives are most important in first quarter and third quarter. First and third quarter. That's it.
Kevin and Janine, thank you so much.
Oh,
I really feel like you guys are coming back on the show because this was such a fun hour, and you're so just fruitful with your knowledge. It was easy and informational for people. Yeah. Thank you for listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on AM 970 The Answer. Tune in next week for the 1-year anniversary show of Culinary Confidential. I'm going to be joined by my very first boss at my first New York City restaurant job, Jennifer Oz-Leroy. Now, Jenny was the owner at Tavern on the Green when I worked there from 2004 to 2008. She is part of a family that has deep roots and legacy in the culture of New York City dining. Her late father, Warner Leroy, left her the Russian tea room and Tavern on the Green when she was just 22 years old after he passed away from an illness. This is going to be a wild show, and I just can't wait for you to hear it. But season 2 picks up right after on September 28th with best bar in the world, Handshake Speakeasy out of Mexico City. They're coming on to talk about how they're making their way in the global cocktail world and everything they're doing there. But that's the show for tonight. Thanks for listening and have a great night.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.